BowTie Barbecue has always been a work of passion. It takes time, skill, and a blend of perfect temperature, wood, smoke, and meats. We just took it up a notch. Taste the passion. BowTie Barbecue, 6724 Waters Avenue, Savannah.
Welcome into the Danny Britt Show, live from BowTie Barbecue here in Savannah. Christian Gokel alongside the head football coach, Danny Britt, as we do every Thursday, breaking down what happened the past Friday night and then diving into the game coming up tomorrow evening. And, Coach, I don't know if there's such a thing as a good loss. It's a word or a combination of words that gets thrown around a lot. But when you travel up 5 hours and play the top-ranked team in the state to a point, and you have an 11-point lead late in that game, there's got to be some positives at least you can take away. I know 29-28, the final score there from Buford. Just a complete turnaround from week 1 to week 2. I know not the result you wanted, but definitely some positives to take away from that one.
Definitely. Here's the thing. Yes, there's no moral victories. We every time we play, we want to win the game. But that's also, in reality, there's ton of positive things we can take from it, and we have, and we've taken those things and worked on them this week and gotten better, and also just talked about the positive things that we did do. We there was a ton of growth from week 1 to week 2.
And I know one of the biggest things we talked about was you guys didn't play up to your standard in that game against Raven Gap. You said it almost felt like the scrimmage in that one, where just guys missing assignments,
right,
and not executing on offense, not getting a hat on the offensive line. It felt like a lot of those things got corrected in this one. And I know for you going back and watching tapes, I feel like there had to be a lot more thumbs up in this one as you're going through the checklist of each of those plays.
Definitely a lot of positives, so many positives. And I felt like we were oddly in sync in the opening scrimmage. I mentioned that the other night on the show, then not against Raven Gap. Now that had also not trying to take anything away from their abilities and the fact they brought it to us. But we corrected a lot of those things. And again, that's what we talked about. That's what we want to be. We want to get better every week and be the best we can be at the end of the year. So that's how you do it. You take the negatives and take the positives, and you work on all of it, and you try to get better each and every week.
I want to start on the defensive side of the ball because they came out throwing haymakers. I mean, just a big play action, first play of the game. Obviously something they had seen from the film against Raven Gap that they felt like they could exploit, and they hit it. Big one-on-one play over the top, puts them in scoring position, and then 4 plays later, they end up punching the football into the end zone, come back out, kick a field goal. But after that, it felt like the defense settled in. And I think it was that stop in the red zone to force the field goal that kind of gave it some momentum there. And I think it started really up front with Cam Cody, the way he played. I thought he had an outstanding game. Third Scroggins was able to have more of an impact. But then just the presence of Mekhi Williams in the secondary route there. It just kind of felt like all those guys settled in.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's what had it, because at first they were just kind of running through us, and I think we hadn't really shown up yet, and we stopped them inside the 10-yard line there and held them to a field goal. And it was Cam in third, actually, that just kind of stepped up and said, hey, we're dogs.
Yeah.
And we could be on the field with anybody. And they physically kind of took over there. And then, you felt that momentum shift. It was a good thing. And then a few minutes later, we have, Mekhi pick off, the pass from the 52 and took it in for a touchdown. And then the whole momentum just shifted right there.
And again, it was that drive where you stop them for a field goal, kind of flip the script there a little bit, and you're able to keep them off the scoreboard for almost 2 quarters there. But a lot of football, especially in high school, it comes down to momentum and just the attitude of the guys on the sideline. You get that pick 6 from Mekhi, but also at the same time, the offense, it felt like, started to come alive a little bit. And I know when you're playing defense, and it's what happened against Raven Gap, when you're playing defense and you just have to keep going on the field over and over and over again, it's hard to settle down on the sideline, catch your breath, much less get with the coach and the iPad and kind of go over what's happening, because you feel like you're going to be right back on the field. I was talking to Kevin about it during the game. It had to be such a huge relief and kind of feel like, hey, I got your back, when the offense was like, we're going to go out there. We might not score, but we're going to pick up a couple first downs and give you some time.
No, definitely they did. They started moving the ball. We were able to run the ball a little bit. Of course, Cannon ended up having 70 yards rushing. That was big. What we talked about the week before of him, kind of refusing to pull it down and just tuck it and go get 5 or 6. He did a very good job of that. And I think it was a huge a huge moment for us as a team to really kind of turn around and say, hey, we're pretty good all over the board. We can play with anybody. Let's go do that.
I was talking to Kevin before the game, and he asked, hey, what do you change coming into this one? And it's something you and I had talked about, which is you don't change anything. It's just you guys had to do what you do at a better level and just kind of execute. And I think that really started at the lines of scrimmage. But, I mean, I thought the open field tackling was one of the biggest 180s from week 1 to week 2. Going up again, I know tired legs from sitting on a bus for 5 hours. Y'all do your best to mitigate that, but still, it can get really easy to go up there and just kind of have arm tackles and miss those things. But just from the jump, it felt like your guys were up there making tackles.
I felt like they did a good job of that. We worked on it a little bit, but again, I mean, it's not like we don't work on it all the time, and that's what I was saying is we work on these things, we work on these base things. I think the biggest difference was, and again, that's why you play these really good teams. They expose you.
Yeah.
They expose you. And then we were able to take that. You go into the film and you go, look at yourself, man. That's not what we teach. That's not what we're working on today. And you can't go out there and work on it full speed. You'll end up just getting everybody hurt. So, but they see that, they take that, and then they go try to make it better. And so that's why you play really good teams.
And sticking on defense, just going back and watching the tape, communicating with your coaches, anybody's performance stand out to you? I know we talked about Cam, we talked about third and Makai in the secondary there. Outside of them, anybody stand out for you guys on defense?
Yeah, well, quite a few people. Makai was our ball hawk last week and did incredible. I gave Cam and third both Beast of the Week shirts because they
deserved.
They played very, very well. But, across the board, I thought guys, played well and did some very positive things. If I had to go back to another one, Larson had another good game.
I feel like we're going to be able to say that after every week.
Well, he's such a consistent young man in everything he does. I was talking to him yesterday about some recruiting stuff, and he's, a little undersized. He's probably my height but built like a grown man.
Right.
And he was talking about, I think the best quality I have, he's got a 4.0 GPA.
That's a good quality.
And I said, well, I think you have some other pretty good ones too. Yeah. But yes, that is a good thing to have. So that's just the type of kid he is. He's going to show up every day to work, period.
Yeah, and again, 23 tackles through 2 weeks, 4.0 GPA. I mean, that opens a lot of doors for people, but he's going to be a centerpiece of this defense moving forward. Coach, flipping over to the offensive side of the ball, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but it felt like Stephen Cannon was settled in more in this game, and he wasn't trying to force plays. He was taking what Buford was given to him. He'd hit his drop, make a couple of reads. If that wasn't there, I thought he did a really good job of tucking the ball and getting out. Just a couple of times where maybe he sat in the pocket for a little bit too long, but outside of that, I thought he commanded the game really well.
I thought he did. I mean, he looked like a veteran, didn't he? I mean, he was calm and cool and moved around. He tucked it, took what he could get, and there you go. And no. A big play was great, but move on to the next play. Bad play, move on to the next play. He handled it, like a veteran.
And no turnovers, 14 to 28, 183 yards and a touchdown. But as you mentioned, on the ground was really where he made a difference, especially on the last touchdown drive. But I thought it was those 2 touchdowns in the second half that were kind of his coming out party. And it's 2 different situations. One where it's like where you're trying to start hammering the nail into the coffin there. You come out with a 2-score lead and you go or with a 1-score lead and you try to make that a 2-score lead with that first drive, and you're able to do that, execute, go down, make it 21-10. But then when they're able to tie the football game up, he's got all the pressure in the world. Buford has all the momentum, and it felt like he kind of put the offense on his back. 3 big runs, able to pick up a bunch of big third downs, then ends up running it into the end zone. I thought, and I don't want to be too hyperbolic here, but it kind of felt like his coming out party, those 2 drives.
I think so. I think, in fact, I looked at somebody on the sideline right there, and when he got the first down, he lowered his shoulder, got the first down, and I said, like I thought, he's a blanking dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what he did, and he took it and was. I think you're right. It's kind of a beginning of a beautiful thing, I hope.
Yeah, and it's so hard to explain for people who haven't experienced it, but man, it's different when you're just experiencing varsity football, especially against the teams you guys have been playing for the first time. Right. It's so fast, and especially as a quarterback, you're trying to process so much. I can't imagine. I never played quarterback, but I know what I had to think about, and if it's 4 times that for a quarterback that you're trying to process, and then you don't want Britt yelling at you on the sideline when you go back over there. So it's a ton of pressure. but it's almost like you could see the light bulb go off where everything kind of slowed down for him, and he just started playing the field and doing what he's done his whole life. But obviously, none of that starts without the guys up front. And again, we talk about 180s. I thought from week 1 to week 2, the offensive line and that group, the running backs included because they were blocking a lot in this one as well, completely different story.
I think so. They did a pretty good job, and we'll have to continue to get better. But
offensive line never gets. Y'all did a great job. That never happens.
It'll come from me sometimes.
Okay.
Now. It never come from their offensive line coach, Coach
Yeah.
Coleman. They just offensive line coaches don't do it. But we got to continue to get better there. But I thought they did a good job, and Gavin Smith did a really good job considering he just became an offensive lineman during the spring. He was thrown into that against Raven Gap and really came out and playing against little school called Buford and did a good job for it. And I think across the board they did and helped each other out, picked each other up. A number of times we see when the guy came off of what he was supposed to do to help,
right.
And that's what it takes.
And again, a guy who would be starting for a lot of different schools at the beginning of this year, but kind of was sitting behind somebody. It's hard to coach 320 pounds.
Right.
But again, a guy who would probably be starting for a lot of different teams, but across the board, thought the offensive line played well. And then the skill guys coach, again, the scrimmage against Camden, you only had the first team out there for the first half. Against Raven Gap, it was such instant pressure after losing a couple of starters.
Right.
That was really hard to call plays. It felt like Coach DePhillips really against Live Fire, a really good Buford team, finally started seeing which buttons to press and where the rhythm was with this team. It's going to be different. Luke's offense looked a lot different than Holden's offense, and they have different playmakers. It kind of felt like he found what was going to make Steven and the rest of the offense comfortable.
I think so, and that takes time. That always does. No matter how much you study it, how much you talk about it, how much you work on it during the summer and the spring, it takes live action to make that happen. And again, when you're playing, top 100 teams in the nation, it makes things a little different. And again, that's why I like to do that, because it puts you under that immediate pressure. And I think you're right. And a lot of things that came out, Stan was really running hard. He only had, I think, 57 yards, but he was running through people. And, so once you can start doing that, you can start seeing, hey, this is what our personality is going to be. It really helps, and you can start getting a flow.
And I thought also kind of discovered some different guys. There's some cramping, and I know you guys probably had Bubba Frazier on an IV this entire week, keeping him hydrated.
He has been IV'd. He's been on I have him on consistent BioLights, and we have the whole team now where they're coming. They get unlimited water in my office with the hydration packet. So, they're good.
We can't have people cramping up on the last drive. But I thought a couple other guys really stepped up when those guys went down, but also I think guys who probably have earned their way onto the field. Jack Gannum, one of those guys who stood up, he's kind of – it just reminds me of some of the guys you've had in the past where he's not 6'2". Right. He's probably not burning a 4.5 40, but he's an athlete. He's not going to drop a football, and he found ways to get open over the middle. And, you look at his stats, 3 receptions for 38 yards, but those are really important yards at really crucial times.
Really big plays, Jack. And I tell you, biggest thing Jack did it was his blocking.
Right.
He was blocking some monster guys. And it almost looks funny when you go back and look at it. And he literally was blocking them and sealing them off and doing a great job of that. Jack's coming into his own. He's a very good athlete. Was hampered a little bit last year with some injuries. They just could not, get past. But this year, and he is fast. He was on the 4x1 team that was a runner-up, or either the 4x2 that won it. I can't remember, but he can roll. But you're right, probably a low 4.6, high 4.5, maybe. Of course, people get confused on those 40 times, don't they?
They do, but I was going to say 4.6 is fast enough to run away from a lot of people.
4.6 is really fast.
Yeah.
4.6 is people get confused. I have parents tell me, "Oh, my son ran a 4.5." I'm like,
no,
how much did you pay the person that told you that?
Right. Were they texting? And then they're like, oh, shoot, now I got to start the clock.
Yeah. So, that's a rare thing, but Jack's a really good athlete. And you're right. He made some big plays and has started coming into himself. And so we expect big things from him.
Then Josh Washington, Karan Hall, Ron Mallard, just those guys kind of filling in the rest. And I thought they did a good job of the defense can only guard so much of the field. There's always going to be somewhere that's going to be open. It's just finding that. And it seemed like Buford, it was the flats. And you guys were able, especially towards the sideline.
Right.
And I thought those guys, especially into the second quarter, into the third quarter, did a really good job of breaking off their routes, coming back when Steven needed them, and just presenting a target.
Yeah, it did. And I thought it was a number of times, that excuse me, they did a good job with that. And Steven did a good job just getting them the ball and taking what, again, you said it earlier, take what they give you,
right,
and just keep doing that play after play after play, and we'll have success.
I'm curious, how do you I know you leave it to Coach DePhillips, but just in y'all staff, how do y'all coach it? Are they looking deep and then coming short, or is it starting short and then looking deep?
No, you're talking about the quarterback?
Yeah.
We have everything specifically called. We do not read coverages and then adjust from that. We have specific calls. That's Coach DePhillips' job.
Yeah.
I know some people do that. Now, obviously, if you have a deep route and things break down, you come short. If you're a short route, you go deep. That's just natural football terminology. But no, we call specific routes, and they are to run that.
And sometimes it comes down to not even coverage or whatever the play call is. You're a quarterback, and you're like, I got my dude right there. I'm going to throw it above a Frazier.
That's a fact. That there's some guys, that Coach Phillips has said, hey, it comes down to it. You find one of those cats
and just put it up there. He's down there somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought, again, he had a touchdown on that one. I know the cramps it brought him out a couple of times that we got to see how dangerous he is against, again, a Buford team. I think we said the stat last week, 19 players for the class of 2025 and 2026 in the top 100 in the state, just all guys going on to play big time college football at Division I level. And he made him look slow a couple times. So we got to see the talent on full display in that one. And hopefully we get to see it on full display in Memorial Stadium coming up tomorrow night. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to preview Britt County, a team that is no stranger to putting up a lot of points and a team that BC has played a lot in the past. We'll break it all down when we come back right here on the Danny Britt Show.
BowTie Barbecue has always been a work of passion. It takes time, skill, and a blend of perfect temperature, wood, smoke, and meats. We just took it up a notch. Taste the passion. BowTie Barbecue, 6724 Waters Avenue, Savannah.
Have I prepared enough? There'll be unexpected turns. When things get tough, I need to stick to the game plan. No regrets. I'm ready. Are you? Get ready. Contact Abel's Iron-On Moore & Associates today and see why they are different. Because nobody ever wishes they'd saved less for retirement.
At Benedictine alumni-owned Stacked Firewood Delivery, we're all about the best premium firewood, conveniently delivered in manageable stacks at the right price. We're talking kiln-dried, pest-free firewood. You see, our custom stack is equal to about 10 fires. Choose oak, cherry, hickory, or mixed hardwoods. Stacked Firewood Delivery. Go to stackedwood.com. That's stackedwood.com. BC Brothers Moving is Savannah's most trusted moving service. From residential to commercial to packing supplies, BC Brothers does it all. Let BC Brothers' energetic, trustworthy team wrap it, pack it, and move it for you. Check out BC Brothers online at bcbrothersmoving.com or give them a like on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Danny Britt Show live here from BowTie Barbecue. And Coach, y'all's first home regular season game of the year.
It's always nice to be home in front of your fans and supporters, and Abel's Iron-On Moore & Associates is one of those. They are a longtime sponsor of our program, so contact them and support the businesses that support our program.
And Coach, Britt County, a team led by somebody that I know you're very familiar with, and I think fans across Southeast Georgia, even if they don't know they're familiar with him, are very familiar with him. Franklin Stevens, one of the, I'd say, premier coaches in the state of Georgia for a long time, was up at McEachern and turned them into a powerhouse, was at Ware County when they were in the middle of their heyday before they're in their heyday now. So a guy who has coached a lot of big-time programs and turned them into just winning machines, and now he's at Britt County with all the resources they have, and they're putting up a whole lot of points.
Yeah, they are. Coach Williams does a great job. We were teammates at Georgia Southern, so we've known each other for a very long time. BC fans will remember him being at Lamar.
There you go.
In our two games with them, which we lost both of them in the last second on field goals. We certainly want to beat him just because of that, if nothing else. but he does a great job, with his kids and his program, and very, very good coach.
And I think one of the things that kind of stands out to me is just watching him through all those different years is it never looks exactly the same, but it's because that's kind of Bill's program is they're going to be really good at what makes football teams good, which is the fundamentals.
Right.
They're going to be good at the line of scrimmage. Quarterback's not going to make a whole lot of mistakes, and they're going to have athletes out wide. But from year to year, the offense and the defense can look different. What is it looking like in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, it's back to what he's done for such a long time. He worked under Coach Herron for a long time at Camden County, so he's a wing T guy. Tons of formations, just trying to get angles, has tons of speed. So primarily a run game. They're going to be it works out to about 75-25. I think
right.
He's more, 80 plus, 18 or 20. Last year we got ahead of them, and they ended up spreading it out and throwing the ball, and came back on us furiously. So we've worked on that a little bit too, and we're going to continue to work on that every week. But so they can do both. That quarterback can throw it, obviously, and so we're going to have to be ready for all of it. But the biggest thing is, you're right. He is going to be extremely fundamentally sound. They're going to block. They're going to tackle. They're going to run hard. They're going to do all the things that a good football team should.
And Coach, just in practice this week, I know it's been a long time since you guys had a quote unquote losing streak. And I know it's just not something, it's words you don't want to say around the program whatsoever, but it's the case right now. And we were talking about it in the post-game show on Friday night. Winning is a skill, and it's not something that you inherit. You can't just, the guys in front of you know how to win. That doesn't mean you're going to know how to win once they move on and graduate. It takes a lot, and I think it takes games like last Friday night where you can kind of look at those situations and say, when it came down to it, they made one more play than we did. Going into practice, how do you kind of approach that with the guys to keep them loose coming into this one and just letting them play their game?
I think you just be real with them. That's the only thing I've ever been able to do. It's probably because I'm not smart enough to manipulate people. So
sometimes you can be too smart for your own game.
I'm real with them, and I'm like, guys, we just played two of the top 100 teams in the country. We just took the number 21 team in the country to a 1-point game.
Yeah.
Now, we all wanted to win it. We were all devastated that we didn't win it, but that doesn't mean we're losers, and so we just had that conversation and say, we know what we do works. So we just keep going back and doing what we do and keep pounding. I don't think any of that's going to, is creeping in. I think, if we go out and play well, we can win, That's just the way it works.
And I know it's not what you want to see or what the kids want to see when you're coming off of 2 losses. And you're like, we need a win. It's like, all right, well, here comes the wing T.
Right.
And I know defensively, it's a mind game, right? Because you just have to every play be ready on the defensive line. It's not going to be zone. It's going to be pin and pulls. There's going to be people going at your knees. There's going to be a lot of counter trays. Like, you're going to have to be extremely disciplined in that front 7, but also in the back 4, they're going to lull you to sleep because there might be 3 drives in a row where you don't see a pass, and all of a sudden there's a dude 20 yards behind you.
That's a fact, and we've talked about that continuously. We've tried to mix that in the script, where we, bam, running, and then we, have a play action. We and so they've done a good job of that this week. So hopefully we'll continue to do that. It's so hard to get the scout team to give the same look that you're going to get on Friday, but I'm sure everybody has that issue. So
I was going to ask, who's the wing T scout quarterback?
Well, we let Manning do it some, and then Thomas Brennan came in too, and he's more of that type. He's our freshman quarterback, and he ran it a good bit, and did a little better job with the midline and stuff than Manning.
And I know, Coach, it's such a huge difference being able to have a normal Friday. You're going to be at home. You don't have to leave the school at 8:00 in the morning. No long bus rides, just a quick jaunt over to Memorial Stadium. How big of a difference is that for you, just physically and mentally, being able to play a game at home?
It's huge, and I think that the boys are excited about it. We're going to come to school, kind of have a regular schedule tomorrow, and then we'll have all our normal pregame meal and walk through, and then they're excited, get to do the cadet walk and be in front of what I would imagine to be a nice crowd, and at home. So everybody, it is huge. It's a big factor, really.
And only 4 regular season home games, so 1 of 4 chances to see the cadets at home. We kind of got to experience it at Buford a little bit, just the atmosphere a great home crowd can create. It's the 11 guys on the field, but it's the thousands of the people in the stands that you need out there on Friday.
And it does make a difference. I mean, you could see it at the end of the game. The that their crowd got ignited and really, I mean, it made for a great environment. It was a big time environment, and it helped pull them through.
And Coach, not trying to jump back into Buford, but just playing in a game like that felt like a playoff game. From honestly the opening kickoff through the end of it, it felt like both teams were living and dying to win that game, when in reality, it doesn't really matter to anybody's schedule who won or lost that one. But with that kind of energy, that kind of emotion, it feels like you can take a step forward. Has there been a kind of a different focus, different energy and practice this week getting ready for this one?
I don't necessarily think so, but you're right. And again, that's why you play those type of games, those type of people, that you get that exposure. And, that's why I didn't want to, play some, in another division where you're going to go out there and there's 50 people and it's like a scrimmage.
Sure.
So that's what it's about. And that's what the kids work so hard for, and being in that type of environment. And it helps you. You're right. It was like a playoff atmosphere and a lot of fun. I thought our crowd,
although it was unbelievable.
It wasn't huge, but there were a good many people on our side as well. And I thought they did a great job of pulling our kids through too.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks in the press box saying that. They're like, usually when folks come from out of town, that side's empty, or they let their fans go sit on that side. But there was a lot of BC folks on that side. We're going to take one more break, come back, wrap it up here with Coach live from BowTie Barbecue. Again, we encourage you every Thursday at noon. We'll be out here breaking it down, even during the bye weeks. We'll be out here. So come, let us know what we should be doing on Friday nights. Coach will take all your play suggestions and make sure we implement them. We'll be right back to wrap it up after this.
Ace Hardware is celebrating 100 years of helpful, and Island's Ace Hardware is Savannah's own. 318 Johnny Mercer Boulevard in Wilmington Island. They're our hometown, locally owned Ace Hardware. From A to Z, they've got it all to help you get things done. Island's Ace Hardware is a proud BC sponsor.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware.
BC Brothers Moving is Savannah's most trusted moving service. From residential to commercial to packing supplies, BC Brothers does it all. Let BC Brothers' energetic, trustworthy team wrap it, pack it, and move it for you. Check out BC Brothers online at bcbrothersmoving.com or give them a like on Facebook.
When it comes to blocking all the obstacles that life throws your way, let Vernon Williams and Auto Owners Insurance help you dodge the hits, analyze the playing field, and run the ball all the way home. We shield you so you can have peace of mind when it comes to auto, home, life, or business insurance. As one of the oldest and most respected independent insurance agencies in the Southeast, we know what it means to stand behind the people we protect head on. Trust in the power of the shield since 1934. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back into the Danny Britt Show. Final segment here from BowTie Barbecue. Again, encouraging everybody to get out to Memorial Stadium tomorrow night, 7:30 kick against Burt County there. But, Coach, last week, I'm not going to say we're Nostradamus or that we called it, but college football kicked off last week. We got a huge slate coming up this Saturday, but Georgia Tech took the plane to Ireland, manhandled Florida State, then took the plane back to Atlanta there. We were talking about Coach Key last week and just the style of football he brought as an offensive lineman, taking over as head coach there for his alma mater.
Right.
I don't know about you. I don't know how much of that game you got to watch, because that was about maybe like 4 or 5 hours after we got home from that game against Buford. But that was satisfying football to watch. It was ball control, and it was just manhandling people at the line of scrimmage.
It was, and that's he's a ball coach. And that's what he said when he got there. I'm a ball coach, and you can every time you talk to him, you realize that, you get that feeling. So I think that was great for Georgia Tech, and he did a really good job. His players are taking on his personality, and that's usually what happens with good coaches, is that that team starts to take on that personality.
I kept having the same thought over and over again during that game was you can go get talent out of the transfer portal, and you can stack up your team all the way through the roster with guys who are going to be in the NFL. But there is something to be said for getting in a program and spending years developing under somebody, learning, and then executing. It seemed like Florida State a little bit. It was 4 dudes trying to put tape out there for the NFL.
Right.
Offensive line and defensive line for Georgia Tech, it looked like people getting hat on a hat and playing as a unit.
I think there's probably some of that, and I think that's going to become an issue across the board, where and I understand sometimes that people are doing what they got to do. I really like Coach Norvell and what he does, but I think they're kind of in a situation where that's what they're having to do right now. Coach Key, not necessarily so much. Coach Smart at Georgia, not necessarily so much. I mean, they're of course going to get some transfer guys, but
Right.
they're trying to build on their high school recruiting, and that's still a big difference. I know Coach at Coach Helton at Georgia Southern, has said that over and over again, that he's going to really try to build on it. And he's real happy about this coming year because he feel like his high school recruiting over the past 3 years is really, paying off.
And again, big slate coming up this Saturday. I know you guys got to work. You're usually in the office early in the morning on Saturday breaking down tape, but you can take some time this Saturday. There's a pretty good slate.
I definitely, and yeah, we've got enough technology now. We don't actually have to come in, so we do it at our.
You don't have to clip the tape?
No. Those days are gone, man. We used to have to do that. And we used to have to make the copies and then take the tape to meet somebody at a gas station, 2.5 hours
That's
away
right.
or whatever. But those days are gone. So no, we can sit on our laptops in our house. So yeah, I'll be watching College Game Day, and then actually going to Georgia Southern to watch Georgia Southern take on Boise State.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know Game Day, your man crush is on there, Nick Saban.
I love Nick Saban. Yes, you're probably right. I don't know if I'd call him a
He's
man
mine.
crush.
He's my man crush.
Man crush. I don't know. That's a little weird.
I'll put it out there.
I'm a little too old for that. But no, I'm a big Nick Saban.
There's only
fan.
one crush in your life, and it's Stephanie.
That's it.
That's
It's
it.
Stephanie.
All right.
That's it.
Well, listen, I'll freely admit Nick Saban. I get flustered when I see him. But Coach, big game coming up on Friday. I know it's huge for the fans to get out there. I know the players have to just be chomping at the bit. What's it like for you having to sit here about 36 hours ahead of time? I know feet start tapping at this point.
I do. There's still a lot to do, so I'm fine with that. But yeah, tomorrow morning's fine. But once you get to like afternoon, it's miserable. I can't stand it. I just can we go ahead and get here and let's kick this thing off? Let's play ball.
It's time to go. Well, Coach, we appreciate the time, and we look forward to seeing you out there tomorrow night. Again, you can catch all the action. Kevin Thomas and myself will be on the call for the audio-only radio stream of that one. If you want to see it, you got to get out in person to Memorial Stadium. So, Coach, we'll see you there tomorrow night.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Go Cadets.